Good afternoon from me and Project Camille, the 07 Toyota Camry. Going to be changing the spark plugs and the valve cover gasket today. I have a bad valve cover gasket leak, and the engine was starting to do this weird bucking thing the other day. It was all running okay, but we have no service record of these ever being changed. It has 100 and how many miles on it now? 160 some thousand miles on it, and we have records clear back to 60,000 miles ago, and we have no records of these being changed, so these are probably bad. So we're just going to change them. Start by getting off this beauty cover here. These are 10mm nuts. Those off, use your cowl as a tray. This comes straight off. Set it here. And then let's unplug our 4 coils. I'll go ahead and change the spark plugs first, and that clip just broke. That sucks. Broke right off. Well, that sucks. That one just broke too. And so did that one. And so did that one. Every single clip just broke. Using it normally. Cool, good to know. Hopefully that doesn't have an issue. If it does cause an issue, you can put them on and put zip ties through them to keep them on there, but we'll see. Sometimes there's just no avoiding broken stuff. So you don't have to keep these in order, but I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, losing my seal. So I have a 5/8 spark plug socket. You should not need a big ratchet to get these loose. If you do, you might want to rethink it, because you can tear threads out of aluminum cylinder heads if they're really tight. These are all pretty good. So once you get them broke loose, you can use electric tools on them. So the spark plugs are supposed to come out with the socket. The little rubber piece in here is gone. So I'm going to use a, oh good. So I'm going to use a magnet instead. Oh yeah, these are definitely worn. Really good too. Oh yeah. Yep, that was our misfire problem for sure. So these spark plugs are definitely worn. I'm not even going to bother checking the gap, because see here in this center of the electrode, this arch part, see how it's not flat anymore and it's got this little part broken out of it? That's literally it eroding away from the spark going over time. So that, if you ever see that, these spark plugs are wore down and wasted. So no point checking the gap. They're bad. We're putting new ones in. My replacements are NGK. Why? I just like them. Never had any problems with them. I got iridium, so not the copper one, so this car came with iridium, so that's what I got. So you get your new spark plugs, take some anise and apply to the threads. Just a thin coat. You don't need a lot of it. I even have way too much on there, so I'm just going to stop. And then just drop it in the plug as gently as you can. Sorry, drop it in the hole as gently as you can. And then just visually check the gap. These iridium ones come gapped from the factory. You have to be careful gapping these, because you can break that tip off. But as long as it is somewhat reasonable, they'll run. This next part's a little controversial, if I even pronounced that right. This is not an impact, just a screw gun. Stick this down in there. Just to run the spark plugs down, because they have a lot of threads. Try not to let it do what I just did there. Try to just get it down to the bottom. Just saves you a lot of time. And then take your other little ratchet like this, Remember, these don't need to be super tight. The little gasket on them seals them. So like it just hit and then just a little bit further. So that one's already hit a little bit further. That one hit just a little bit more. That one hit right there just a little bit more. And that's all you need. These plugs are really thin. They'll break if you tighten them more than that. And normally you would put the coils back in here, plug them all back in, and you'd go on your way. But I'm gonna change the valve cover too. The valve cover gasket, excuse me. 10 millimeter back out. Get my wiring harness up and out of the way. Doesn't really want to though. Valve cover, so I have factory too. Put those bolts next to each other. Okay. They're the same size bolts. We should be okay. Yep, the same. Flip that out of the way. Next, we have a couple hoses for a PCV system. These ones right here are meant to be grabbed with your fingers. So you can squeeze it, just leave it right where they're at, and then pull the hose off. Or sometimes you have to use persuasion and reason to get them off. There, just a little bit of persuasion. These clips right here, the ones that are like the worst known to mankind, these pliers have little grooves in them. You line those up with these clips, you squish them, and then they won't slip. And I have the lock tab I just activated. Okay. So when you get the clip off, you can come in here and pull the hose off. Fold that down out of the way, stuff it somewhere. Not happy. Then take your 10 millimeter, unscrew all of the nuts and or bolts. These long bolts so far are all the same length. Checking as I go. Now the valve cover will come up with more persuasion. Ooh, almost made a mistake. Two here in the center. The two in the center are different. So that's something to keep in mind. If it doesn't come up real easily like that, see what you missed. See, now it's actually coming up easy. Wiring harness out of the way. All right, well, let's take off this alternator bolt. I'll get more wiring harness wiggle room. There we go, yep, that helped. And there's our valve cover. So you can see your timing chain, which is nice and tight, should be in good shape there. Camshafts, no excessive wear on anything. And all the valves and stuff all in here. All pretty normal, looks pretty good. And as far as our valve cover gasket, get back under the light. You see when I pull this up, see how hard and brittle that is? Probably will just break in half. This is where your leaks come from. When the gaskets aren't squishy anymore, that's where your leak starts. Gaskets should never do this. That thing is just complete junk. Oh, good. I'm gonna go take this out of the out somewhere else so I don't get it down the motor. Once again, the pocket screwdriver comes in great. And try to get in here and dig this out. I'm having a hard time getting under it. Okay, our valve cover gasket's removed. If you have one available to you, you can put this through the parts washer, but it's not necessary. Just make sure that the gasket groove is all clean. There, look at that difference in that gasket. So, pushing into all of the holes, or grooves more like. They usually line up the corners and then feed in the middle. And here we go. Make sure that stays in there when you hold it upside down, because sometimes it can come out of place and you miss it and you have a gigantic leak. So it's going to stay there pretty good. Okay, so that gasket's not going anywhere. Leave that just like that. I'll go prepare the other surface. How you change the timing chains in these motors, this front cover comes off, and so there's a little gap right here. And so the proper way to put these valve cover gaskets back on is to apply RTV at that seam and the seam back here. That's what this little bubble of crap is. So you get that off and throw it away. Be careful not to dump it down the motor. And then take your rag and then wipe away from the motor, of course, but like make sure the entire sealing surface is dry. Wipe off any loose crap, shake the rag out once in a while. So when you get your RTV ready, put just a little glob right on the seam, right there, and then once on the back. That was even too big of a glob, but I'll just spread it around here. And that ensures you won't get a leak through that little seal. So now, once again, I'm going to make sure that the gas is going to stay put in our cover, which it does. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it back on, being extra careful to not touch the gasket. Okay, then take a quick peek underneath of it, make sure your gasket didn't move. You can also take a mirror like this and make sure that it's still in place. Which in my situation, it's all there, so we're good. And because he's going to aluminum, you don't want to strip anything out. So I'm just using a little screw gun just to run them down. Don't really want to get carpal tunnel, so work from the inside and then go out. So like inside and then work out to the edges. And then just go around all the bolts at least twice, maybe 3 times. Make sure they're all snugged up. Sometimes you'll tighten up the last few and then the cover will settle more, and then the first ones become loose, so you got to go back and check them again. So back at my first ones, these have loosened up now that the cover has settled more. And these outside ones, this time I'm going to go around just in a circle to make sure I don't miss any. So I'm going to put all the coil packs back in their respective locations, starting the bolts by hand to avoid cross threading. So these clips being broke hopefully won't be a problem. They're going to stay put. Hopefully the gasket doesn't push them back off. Well, time will tell. Just what happens. Plastic gets old and gets brittle, and you touch it and it shatters. That's how it is. So reinstall our PCV hose. Oh, come on. There we go. Reinstall our other PCV hose. There we go, clip's already installed. All right, so we're gonna back this off, spray this with some of that biodegradable cleaner stuff, let it soak for a couple minutes, and then rinse it off, and then we're gonna go for a test drive. So you go to the hardware store and you get some of this cleaner stuff. It's called Super Clean from the parts stores. Get some air pressure, and just spray it all over the engine, all over the oil spots. Don't want to let this sit too long because it can eat the stuff you don't want it to, but it works really well. So when you go to rinse this off, you don't want to have a jet because you don't want to get water into a connector that will cause it to corrode. You just want to rinse it. So rinsing it like this is okay, but you don't want actual pressure behind it. Don't want to pressure wash it. So you can see how much better this looks from just a light rinsing. I want to do this a couple more times off camera, and then we're going to go for test drive. So I have this all cleaned off. It's not perfect, but what I'm going for is it just being dry, so I can see if a new leak shows up after I go for the test drive. I'm not going for like showroom quality. As you can see, it's nice and dry where the cylinder head meets the valve cover. That's what you want to see all the way around it. I have a mirror here to check the back. It's all sealed up, so our valve cover is good. Our misfire is fixed. If you like this video or if it helped you out in some way, feel free to like and subscribe.